Manel and Julia came to wish Bailin's sister and her son a Merry Christmas. Manel shows the guy his cat, Lukalo, whom he watches through an automatic feeder. On the way home, a quarrel occurs between Manel and Julia, which is why Julia did not keep track of the road and almost crashes into a car. The couple takes a deep breath and prepares to continue their journey, but a truck appears, crashing into the car. Julia did not survive the accident. A year later, the authorities begin discussing the topic of closing borders. Daniel, the Director General of Security, says that there are clashes with the police at the border, and the incidence of the TSEHa virus has exceeded all calculations. There are a couple of days left before more drastic measures. Because of this news, the city was very empty. Many people are afraid to leave their apartments. Some politicians suggest that biological weapons are to blame, and the UN says that abandoned Soviet laboratories were the cause of the outbreak. Manel arrives at the pier, where Maria was waiting for him. She wants to buy his boat. A little later, Manel goes shopping, where Ballin calls him every now and then. But Manel does not answer the phone. Residents buy up absolutely everything, which is why the store carries no more than 2 items in one hand. The panic is getting worse by the minute. The head of the Ministry of Health appeared on television. He announces that there have been 2 cases of infection in the city, but they are keeping everything under control. After packing up her purchases, Model calls her sister. Her husband Mario, who works in the military, takes the guy away. Manel says he never sold the boat. The girls wanted something more modern. Anyway, Ballin reports that thanks to Mario's work, they are being transferred to the Canary Islands so that they can wait there for the end of the epidemic. Mario thinks he should check the communication systems, but they didn't tell him anything else. Ballin wants Manel to go with them because he is completely alone. Manel replies, actually, he was lying. After considering the offer, he nevertheless packs up and goes to the airport with the cat. Manel sees all his neighbors also packing up and going somewhere, all because of the news about the mutation of the virus, which put the European authorities in a difficult position. The mutation dramatically shortens the incubation period from a couple of minutes to several hours. The method of transmission may be contact with infected people, including a bite. However, airborne transmission has not been detected, and all this happened last night. A little later, Manel prepares to board, but as soon as one of the girls' documents showed a red light, the entire flight was abruptly cancelled, followed by all the others. An emergency alert is sent to the phones. Because of the panic, the man runs to the plane, followed by a security guard. Bailin called her brother with the news that the virus had mutated again. Now the incubation period is a few minutes maximum. He needs to run home. Due to the closure of all possible routes, a huge traffic jam has formed for several kilometers, while the military is beginning to arrive in the city. The radio reports that 2 officers were attacked by a man. They urgently needed evacuation. Manel realizes that it's pointless to stand in such traffic jams, which is why he picks up the cat and walks home. It was only towards nightfall that he reached the city. Ambulances are wandering from side to side, all because of the house that the soldiers have quarantined. Manel wants to ask what is going on here, but the soldiers ask not to approach them. As they are taking the infected person out of the house, Manel is amazed to see his distraught neighbor. A new day is coming. Bailin says the authorities want to create safe zones and move people there, but there are critical voices inside the army, because the more people there are in one place, the more infected there are. There have already been examples in Belgium. It's much more profitable for Manel to stay at home. They say on TV that Munich is under full quarantine, and it's far from the first city in Europe. Thanks to social media, you can see the horror going on in those cities. At the same time, not only in Europe, but also in the USA. One of the men came up with a way to hide from the infected so that they could not bite him. How does the whole of Spain suddenly get emergency status? The population can be mobilized. Manel decides to go to the store. People there have already forgotten about all the rules and started looting. All Manel gets is a dog food while fighter jets fly over the city. A few minutes later, a man bumps into him. The zombies are already here. Manel tries to save the man, but almost becomes dinner himself if he hadn't been saved by a wounded policeman. Another policeman, who locked himself in the store, has already turned in, and Manel realizes that he needs to run. The president reports that the level of the disease is out of control around the world. All cities with over 400,000 people are now a quarantine zone. The only thing citizens can do now is to follow all orders from the military. Manel realizes that no one but him will help him, which is why he begins to equip his house for future defense. and they make a video surveillance camera out of an automatic feeder. At night, soldiers announce the start of the evacuation. Failure to cooperate will have consequences. Manel is thinking about getting on the bus, but his sister forbade him to do so. They'll save him soon. It's good that Manel has solar panels and batteries installed. Otherwise, he wouldn't have electricity at all. There are practically no food supplies. I have to make a sortie for supplies. Armed with a harpoon, he thought that there were no more neighbors here, which is why he searched several houses until he came across a woman. Gabriella points to the house where the food should definitely be. She saw how their residents brought packages into the house and then left with the soldiers. I don't think they had time to eat everything. After searching the location given to her, he even finds a motorcycle with keys, which increases the search area. Even so, the catch is very meager. But Manel found two walkie-talkies. He keeps one for himself and gives the other to the woman. After a while, Manel enters the new house and hears someone walking behind him. Shooting from a U-turn, he practically kills the man, who runs away from the fright. But there was food in this house that could be shared with Gabriella. In the dead of night, Gabriella would wake him up and ask him to turn on the radio. According to him, someone sends a message to all the survivors and the place where their shelter is located. Their supplies are almost at zero, and Manel suggests taking a chance. Gabriella is afraid that because of her disability she will be a burden, but Manel assures her that he will do everything possible to help her. By morning, he had collected everything he needed, but Gabriella stopped responding. Manel runs to her house and finds a note. Thank you for all these days. Since she made the decision to leave this world and not interfere with Manel. No sooner had he left the house than he was attacked by zombies. Manel loads the harpoon and fires. Fearing that the harpoon may now be dangerous, he treats it with boiling water, simultaneously writing down a message to his sister that he is going to reach the shelter. On leaving the city, he comes across an abandoned military checkpoint, which is no longer there. Infected people run to the noise of the engine. Manel goes to the human camp. They thought it would be safer in the forest, but it was a mistake. The motorcycle breaks down, but the dock is already very close, and Manel manages to lock himself behind bars. However, there is another problem. All the boats were stolen. In the store, he takes everything that can be useful, and notices a boat standing alone. Taking off his shoes, he swims to check the boat, which won't start, and there is a zombie child sitting below. There is only one thing left, to use an inflatable boat. The Russians find him late at night. They take him to their scow, where Lucas and Manel can eat. After that, they give him a small cabin. Tomorrow, Manel should tell them where to find supplies. Manel asks if they have found any other survivors. Victor says he doesn't, but at night, new refugees appear, including girls. By morning, Manel sees none of them. Victor pretends that no one was there at night, but then why was their boat on board, and one of the doors is locked? Manel understands what's in his mouth and asks Victor to tell the truth. Victor turned out to be kinder than the other guys and gives advice to keep a low profile. Then Manel is safe. In the late afternoon, he gathers his things and tries to escape with the cat. However, the desire to find out what was below was much stronger. He frees a man who was too loud. A sailor comes to the sounds, eliminating him. With him was Victor, who stands up for Manel and eliminates the bandit. They try to get on the boat unnoticed and leave, but they are seen. They open fire, and one of the bullets hits Victor. There were several cars on the shore, one of which had a key. The trio rushes to the hospital, where the helicopter should be. Victor knows how to drive it and, in theory, should take them to the island. Obviously, at the very beginning, all the patients were taken there, which is why zombies are running everywhere. After eliminating the first wave, he's going to take the bullet out of Victor, but he notices girls playing on the upper floors. Matya asks them to help Victor. All that remains is to escape from the medical staff and hide in a safe zone. A little later, Victor manages to stabilize, but the fever will subside for at least one day. The nurse adds that there is still a helicopter near the hospital. He's in a zombie-strewn quarantine zone. It's too dangerous to go there. While thinking about a plan of action, messages start coming to the phone from his sister, who is still waiting for him. Gunshots can be heard in the distance. The bandits track them down. We need to get to the helicopter before them. There were casualties. One of the nurses gets bitten. Manel recalls a video where a man talked about a safe way to get around. There is a critical flaw in their methodology. The top is not covered with anything. The zombies try to climb up to them, but the axe turns out to be a good argument to retreat. Everyone climbs the helicopter and starts it up. At this moment, Bandits run into the quarantine zone and make their way through the infected. Gulliver orders to shut down the helicopter. Mattia understands that he has no other choice. He opens the grate, letting in the infected. There were too many of them, and the bandits are dying. Matthew liquidates all those who survived and jumps onto the stairs. It would seem that this is a victory, but as they approach the island, they manage to catch a signal from Ballin, who asks her brother not to approach the island while fighter jets with bombs fly over them. But that's where the movie comes to an end. We will be glad to receive your like.